Narad Muni does two wonderful things. The first thing that we already pointed out is injecting bhakti into the life of King Citraketu by giving him a mantra to chant and also establishing the goal, what's going to happen when he chants that mantra, then in 7 nights he will meet the Lord of his life, Sankarsana, face to face. But the second important thing that Narad Muni does is he also brings in practical transformation in the life of King Chitraketu. In order to do that, he brings his dead son back to life temporarily. So, just to establish this point that none of the relationships that we are investing in on a material platform are permanent. Sometimes we carry this misconception, like even for husband and wife, that they are carrying this relationship for many lifetimes. But that's just a, you know, an idea projected just so that they can at least maintain themselves in this life together. But relationships can only become eternal when they are reposed on an eternal platform, which means when we are bringing Krishna or God in the center of those relationships. Any materialistically held relationship is bound to become stale, it's bound to cease to exist over a period of time. And that point is just so wonderfully established by Narad Muni experientially for King Chitraketu. So, in the presence of the lamenting relatives of the child, sage Narada used his mystic power to call the, the dead princess soul back into the body. And then the sage said, O living entity. So that Narad Muni is turning to that revived soul in the body of the child, that, O living entity, all good fortune unto you. Just see your father and mother. All your friends and relatives are overwhelmed with grief because of your passing away. I don't think anybody would have this level of experience that Narad Muni is giving to King Chitraketu. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out in this context that actually it was Narad Muni who enters into the child's body in order to enlighten King Chitraketu and Queen Kritadyuti through the mouth of the dead son. Because he knew that if he just spoke the knowledge directly, it may not necessarily touch the heart. Chitraketu may still be sort of carrying on to his lingering attachments and becoming sad after the departure of the two sages. But Narad Muni wanted to bring about a permanent effect. And therefore, he arranged for this very special circumstance for King Chitraketu. So, in text number 3, Narad Muni suggests something very shocking to the newly entered soul, that accept the royal throne and all the opulences given by your father. So you re-enter your body and enjoy the remainder of your life surrounded by your friends and relatives. And then you accept the royal throne and all the opulences given by your father. This is Narad Muni telling the, the revived son. So now we are going to take a good amount of time understanding what happens, but today is just more or less an introduction to what happens. So the key thing that the son, the revived son, is delivering to his father is that, who are you? Which father? In which lifetime? Because the conditioned soul moves from one body to another. Like in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Dehino asmin yatha dehe kaumaram yavanam jara tatha dehantar praptir dhiras tatra namuyati. Just like in this life, the soul is going through the experience of the childhood to youth to old age. At the time of death, the same soul is moving on to the next destination. So, in this way, the soul is going through many different stations of life. And at this juncture, when the soul is brought back to life, the soul naturally asks this question: which lifetime are you referring to that you were my father in? That's why it's a very, very unique situation. Just to drive home this very, very important primordial lesson that Krishna gives in the Bhagavad Gita. So the departed soul speaks like this: according to the results of my fruitive activities, I, the living being, transmigrate from one body to another, sometimes going to the species of the demigods, sometimes to the species of lower animals, sometimes among the vegetables, and sometimes to the human species. So, in this way, the soul is remembering all of these varieties of lifetimes. So, the soul is also given a remembrance of all these mixture of lifetimes that it has seen before. Therefore, in which birth were these my mother and father? No one is actually my mother and father. How can I accept these two people as my parents? Because I have had so many parents. So, as you can see, the soul is speaking without any sugar coating and taking King Citraketu and Mother Kritadyoti out of their illusory condition. Prabhupada writes in purport number 4, this time the living entity was supposed to have been the son of Maharaj Chitraketu and Queen Kritadyoti because, according to the laws of nature, he had entered a body made by the king and queen. Actually, however, he was not their son. The living entity is the son of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And because he wants to enjoy this material world, the Supreme Lord gives him a chance to enter various bodies. The living entity has no true relationship with the material body he gets from his material father and mother. He is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, but he is allowed to go through different bodies. Finally, therefore, the living entity flatly denied that Maharaj Chitraketu and his wife were his father and mother. So, the main question to ponder upon is that how can an eternal soul, the soul which is eternal, have a father or mother in the material world? So, then text 5 onwards, um, the departed soul starts actually speaking many wonderful transcendental wisdom with the help of various analogies. So, just like every relationship a living entity develops through many transmigrations is swept away by the river of time. So, this material world, which advances like a river, which carries away the living entity, all the people, they become these three categories, either the friends, relatives, or enemies in due course of time. And depending on the quality of the relationship, they may be acting neutrally or they may be in a position to mediate, or they may despise one another. And this way, they act in many other relationships. And despite all these various transactions, no one is permanently related. So, Prabhupada writes in the purport number 5, giving a different perspective. Maharaj Chitraketu, or Chitraketu Maharaj, was lamenting for his son, who was now dead, but he could have considered the situation otherwise. This living entity, he could have thought, was my enemy in my last life, and now, having appeared as my son, he is prematurely leaving just to give me pain and agony. Why should he not consider the dead son his former enemy, and instead of lamenting, be jubilant because of an enemy's death? So, this is a very interesting consideration that one can also um, put on. So, then Prabhupada is saying that everything is happening because of our association with the modes of material nature. Therefore, one who is my friend today in association with the mode of goodness may be my enemy tomorrow in association with the mode of passion and ignorance. As the modes of material nature work, in illusion, we accept others as friends, enemies, sons, or fathers in terms of the reactions of different dealings under different conditions. So ultimately, it's the time's swirling currents mix us with friends and enemies and then push us uh, onward, leaving those friends and enemies to swirl in other currents. So that's the basic idea that is presented here. And we are going to see many interesting analogies coming forth, and we are going to continue. But